Chagwera. Abambe. Chagwera.
Elections in Malawi are more than a process to select a leader. They are a moment of reckoning, a reflection of the government's failures, and often a desperate plea for survival. On September 16, 2025, millions of Malawians braved the scorching sun, some queuing before dawn, driven by the faint hope that a single vote could alter their nation's course. In cities like Lilongwe and Blantyre, the mood was not festive but weary. Years of inflation had eroded salaries, food prices had doubled, and fuel queues rivaled the length of voting lines. For many, voting was not about endorsing a candidate but punishing those they held responsible for their struggles. The incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera carried the weight of unfulfilled promises into the election. His 2020 victory, following the annulment of the 2019 election, had sparked hope for a transformed Malawi. But by 2025, that hope had faded. Jobs were scarce, corruption scandals persisted, and austerity measures deepened hardship. The ruling party's call for patience rang hollow for rural farmers battered by climate shocks and urban workers whose wages could no longer sustain them. Hungry families cannot eat promises of structural reform. On the other side was Peter Mutharika, the former president ousted by a court ruling in 2020. His campaign thrived on nostalgia and resentment, positioning him as a leader wronged by the 2019 annulment. His rallies, fueled by loyalty and tribal identity, promised a return to better days. For his supporters, this election was about redemption, not just policy. Caught between these two giants were millions of Malawians, many disillusioned, especially younger voters who saw democracy as a cycle of chaos and poverty. For them, voting was less about hope and more about obligation. A grim necessity to exist in a system that often failed them. By afternoon, polling stations buzzed with a mix of hope and unease. Civil society monitors and international observers kept watch, but whispers of irregularities surfaced even before ballots were sealed. Yet the deeper story was not fraud or delay, it was expectation. For many, the ballot was a weapon, the last defense against a political class that had let them down. But expectations cut both ways. When a nation pins its frustrations on an election, disappointment can ignite rage if results fall short. As the sun set on election day, Malawi teetered on a precipice. The votes were cast, but could the system deliver results fast enough to say to people hungry for change? The silence that sparked chaos when polling stations closed, Malawians awaited answers. Instead, they got silence. Days passed, and the Malawi Electoral Commission (MEC) delayed, claiming it was verifying results despite reporting over 99% of votes counted. In theory, this was caution. In practice, it was a spark in a tinderbox. For a population distrustful of authority, every hour without results fueled suspicion. Was the commission ensuring accuracy or negotiating in secret? Were ballots secure or being tampered with? In Malawi, where history breeds skepticism, silence is never neutral, it's a provocation. This silence carried economic weight. Small traders hesitated to stock goods, fearing instability. Food vendors worried about losing customers to unrest, while transport operators braced for roadblocks. Malawi's fragile economy, already strained by inflation and shortages, buckled under uncertainty. In rural villages, farmers huddled around radios, hearing only, still verifying, in a cruel loop that heightened tension. In urban centers, social media erupted with rumors of rigging and ballot theft. Civil society urged calm, and international observers called verification normal, but their words fell flat. The 2019 election annulment had left trust in short supply. Silence fed suspicion, and suspicion fed anger. As days dragged on, the vacuum of information allowed political narratives to take root. Supporters, primed by their leaders, grew less interested in official results and more convinced by their party's story. By week's end, Malawi wasn't waiting for results. It was simmering, questioning whose victory would be accepted. The Electoral Commission's silence had ceded power to politicians eager to shape reality. Dueling victories and a divided nation. When silence stretched too far, politicians filled the void. Both the Democratic Progressive Party (DPP), led by Peter Mutharika, and the Malawi Congress Party (MCP), led by Lazarus Chakwera, declared victory before official results. The DPP, citing partial counts from 9 of 36 councils, claimed Mutharika had secured 51% of the vote. They repeated this figure at rallies and press briefings, banking on perception over fact. The MCP countered, pointing to Chakwera's strongholds and dismissing the DPP's claims as reckless. Both sides were playing a dangerous game, shaping narratives to insulate supporters from potential defeat. On the ground, this sparked division. In Blantyre, DPP supporters marched, proclaiming Mutharika the people's president. In Lilongwe, MCP crowds chanted for Chakwera's certain re-election. Social media became a battlefield of hashtags and victory posters, each side claiming the crown. For ordinary Malawians, this deepened distrust. Farmers and workers, unable to parse complex tallies, clung to their leaders' assurances. Premature victory claims weren't just bravado, they were insurance against defeat. If the commission declared the other side the winner, supporters could cry foul, convinced their victory was stolen. This brinkmanship sidelined the Electoral Commission. Its cautious statements couldn't compete with the party's triumphant rhetoric. The commission, meant to be the ultimate authority, appeared weak, its credibility eroding daily. By week's end, Malawi wasn't awaiting results. It was waiting to see which victory would stand. The stage was set for a deeper crisis where official results might matter less than partisan conviction. The ghost of 2019, this chaos echoed the 2019 election, when Mutharika's initial victory was annulled by the Constitutional Court for widespread irregularities. Tally sheets altered, complaints ignored. That historic ruling, only the second of its kind in Africa, was celebrated as proof Malawi's democracy could self-correct. But it also sowed doubt. If one election could be mishandled, why not another? The 2020 rerun brought Chakwera's landslide, but by 2025, the lack of tangible progress left many questioning whether the annulment had merely swapped one elite for another. The shadow of 2019 loomed large. The courts, once hailed as democratic guardians, now faced skepticism. Were they truly independent, or swayed by political appointments? Could they repeat their 2019 courage? Civil society urged faith in the judiciary, but citizens, scarred by economic hardship, wondered if another legal battle would deliver relief or just more delays. Legal challenges take months, but Malawi's economy, squeezed by inflation, fuel shortages, and climate shocks, couldn't afford months of uncertainty. Traders raised prices, truckers slowed deliveries, and families faced emptier shelves. International observers watched closely, warning that repeated crises could brand Malawi as unstable, deterring aid and investment. The 2019 precedent wasn't just political, it was economic, threatening livelihoods as much as legitimacy. If the courts were dragged back into the fray, their ruling could either restore trust or inflame tensions beyond control. The nation at a crossroads, Malawi now faces two paths. In the first, the Electoral Commission delivers a transparent result, accepted enough to calm the streets. Leaders choose restraint, and institutions regain trust. This wouldn't erase economic woes but would grant stability, the foundation for reform and recovery. In the second, darker path, both parties double down, refusing any outcome but victory. Courts become battlegrounds, but rulings can't feed families. Protests could erupt, fracturing confidence in democracy itself. When citizens see elections as elite games, the system risks collapse and livelihoods crumble first. The irony is stark. Both Chakwera and Mutharika campaigned on fixing the economy, yet their rush to claim victory deepens the hardship they vowed to end. Malawians, resilient through past crises like the 2019 annulment, could again demand accountability. But resilience has limits. If leaders continue to test the people's patience, the social fabric may tear as Malawi awaits final results. One question looms. Will this election restore faith in its fragile democracy, or will it unravel under broken promises and despair? The answer will shape not just who governs, but whether the ballot box retains its power to protect a nation's hopes.